Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Welcome to our 37th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Shelach in the book of Numbers that speaks about the spies being sent out to scout out the land of Israel and the bad report that they bring back, and the fact that they have to wander in the desert for 40 years because of this sin. So there's quite a bit to speak about exactly why they sinned and what they said and etc. So the Torah says, beginning chapter 13, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, "Send forth men, if you please, let them spy out the land of Canaan, that I will give to the children of Israel, one man each from his father's tribe. Shall you send everyone a leader among them?" And Moshe sent forth from the wilderness of Paran at Hashem's command. All distinguished men, heads of the children of Israel were they. Chapter 13, verse 1 to verse 3. So here the Torah says that Moshe sends out these spies. God seems to agree. And these are very important people, because they are each one from his father's tribe. And they were distinguished men, heads of the children of Israel. So there's an obvious question that if they were so great, how could they sin from spying out the land, right? How could such great men have made such a mistake? I mean, after all, if God is God, God did all these miracles for them, took them out of Egypt, gave them the Torah. They were in the desert. They were able to survive in the desert through the man that God gave them. So if these people were so great and heads of the Jewish people, where's the faith? How can they not have faith that regardless of what they see and how they describe it with the giants and whatever, can't God do anything? God can certainly subdue these people, right? So what is the issue? So it says, Mori v'Rebbe, Arav Agon Moshe Star Moshlita, may he be well. He brings down a number of ideas. I think that will shed some light into this. So one thing he says is that they're in the desert and they're living miraculously in the desert. It would seem that if we see what's going on, that God's trying to prepare them. They're in the desert. They're getting the man every day, getting double portion before Shabbos. So all their needs are taken care of. Clothes don't wear out. All these different things that go on, God is working on their emunah, on their belief in Him in more of a miraculous way. In other words, they're living really above nature. What goes on there obviously shouldn't. There's no oasis, so to speak, even though the well of Miriam that went with her until she died, so to speak. There's a problem. Where's the water? We're not gonna survive without water, especially living in a desert. So they're living miraculously in the desert. Over here, what do we see? They send out spies to check out the land, and they want to see if they can overcome it. If they can take over the land with the inhabitants in them, i.e., according to nature. We're not talking miracle. Right here, we're not talking miracle. They go in the land, they'll take over the land, no problem. So he says that, what do they see? They see giants there. And to them, they look like grasshoppers compared to the giants. So, it's not that they didn't believe that God could take care of these people. The question is, how are we looking at it? Are we looking at it, it's going to be miraculous? Or are we looking at it as it's going to be according to nature? According to nature, the way they see it, it's an impossibility. Right? 10 times out of 10, you put them in a supercomputer against the inhabitants of the land, 10 times they lose. Right? That's what it would seem like. So you have to look at the perspective, whether it's going according to nature or it's going according to miracle. That's one. That's one idea. So he flushes it out by saying, of course, the Jewish people believe God could do anything. They've seen it. They've witnessed it. They saw all the miracles in Egypt. They came out in the desert. All their needs are taken care of. They've definitely seen that. They've witnessed it. Well, what was their doubt? Their doubt was that maybe they had sins. They had transgressed and done things that this divine favor is no longer going to apply to them. For instance, they sinned with the golden calf, with the chet ha'egel. They complained in the desert. We want more watermelon. We want more, we want meat. We want all these things. We miss Egypt. Imagine everything that went on in Egypt and how they suffered. And say, look what we missed. We used to have watermelon in Egypt. We used to have fish. You were working 15 hours a day, back-breaking labor. That's what you want to go back to? Right? That's really we can't imagine that. How good in the world if they, wanted to go back to that? So, in short, they complain a lot. Or it would seem. So maybe they thought, because of all their complaints and the things that they did wrong, maybe they didn't warrant divine protection anymore. Therefore, God says, go conquer the land. They go and they get slaughtered. Right? Maybe that would happen. God forbid. But it's only going to happen because of their transgressions. So they didn't think God couldn't take care of things. God's already proven himself, has a tremendous track record. In this case, they were afraid that maybe they'd done something wrong, or maybe many things wrong, and the divine protection would no longer be there. So the reality is, they did have proper faith. And they were flexing their spiritual belief in God muscles while they're in the desert. The thing is that even if they believe, and they know God can do anything, so however much they believe, it's kind of irrelevant here, because they think something else might have caused the sin to happen. Meaning, other things have caused them, that they have sinned in these other things, and therefore, God is not going to forgive them so quickly, and if they go into the land, they don't have a chance. That's one. That's one idea. Also, within the same idea, what is the land of Israel exactly? Right, the land of Israel, obviously we understand, is the Holy Land. It is called the Holy Land because that's where God's presence is. God's presence is everywhere, but it's focused here. His home, so to speak, was here in the temple, even though the temple got destroyed. No difference of opinion. If the temple got destroyed, does it have holiness? Does that area have holiness or not? Some say it does, some say it doesn't. We hold in the end that it does. That once it was already made holy, it continued to be holy, even if the temple got destroyed. But you have to keep in mind. Where are they going? They're living in the desert. They're going to go. It's God's going to tell them to go conquer the land. So they're going into the palace of the king. Going in the palace of the king, that comes with real responsibility. Because after all, you are God's chosen people. You are now in his backyard. And if you're in his backyard, you better not mess up. You mess up anywhere else, you're going to pay the price. You mess up in his backyard, you pay a more severe price. So, they were worried. Also, if they go into the land, and the land is so holy, and they don't reach the standard that they need to reach, so then according to nature, they're in trouble. If you look at Tanakh, and you look at the history of the Jewish people, when they do the right thing, they go up. They do the wrong thing, they get knocked down. Kind of like a sine curve, it goes up and down and up and down. So, if you're in the palace of the king, and you mess up, it's much more severe. So that's why in the palace of the king, in the land of Israel, you have definite extremes. One extreme is spirituality. Right? The easiest place in order to find spirituality is all around you, if you want it. It's very, very powerful. At the same time, you can have the greatest amount of spirituality while having the greatest amount of impurity as well. the forces go like this. They go right one against the other. You can't have spirituality without impurity. At least impurity trying to fight it. Why? Because the reality is, in the entire world like that. Man's created, the soul of man is created with a good inclination, and it also has a bad inclination. It's not like the bad inclination says, okay, we're going to let you reign, do whatever you want, everything's cool, I'm going to disappear. It's a constant battle. So a person is in constant battle every day of his life. The evil inclination will not let go even when you're sleeping. So just like a person has that turmoil inside 24/7, imagine what the turmoil could be if you live in a place where there's the greatest amount of holiness. Because when you have something that's so holy, what do you have against it? You have you have forces of impurity. They want to offset that. They want to try and destroy it. So that's what the land of Israel is. You have people fighting for the holiness of Shabbos, fighting for Jewish values. And you have others that are fighting to destroy that. If you look at how the history of the state was founded, we'll just go off topic here, a drop. If you see how things were founded, they were interested in not having any connection to Torah. They would have been very happy to have a state of Jews, not necessarily a Jewish state. A Jewish state means that it's run by Torah. A state of Jews is exactly what it sounds like. It's like any other country. The English have England, Albanians have Albania, Canadians have Canada, Americans have America. So you want to be like everybody else, so you end up like everybody else. But don't do it in the Holy Land. Right? The Holy Land's different. Holy Land is an eternal promise. It's going to be given to the Jewish people. But even though we're in the land now, if God forbid we got spit out, when the Messiah comes, he'll take everybody in. The land's going to come back, even if we lose it. So when you're the palace and the king, repercussions are much more, are much stronger. Because you mess up anywhere else, okay, you pay a price. Mess up in the palace of the king, repercussions are much more severe. So everyone's told the story with Mordechai Pogramansky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may his name be blessed. Mordechai Pogramansky was an unbelievable rabbinic scholar, last generation. Died relatively young after the war, after World War II. The Rebbe had a connection to him. He was in France after the war, and he went to see him. An unbelievable rabbinic genius, according to everybody. Nothing to talk about. And my Rebbe wanted to get a blessing from him to come to the land of Israel. So Pogramansky said, do you understand? Every time you speak Lashon Hara, every time you speak badly against the land, you know what the punishment is? Every time you transgress, he says, I'm not at that level. I'd be terrified. I'd be absolutely terrified. If I went there, you always have to be on guard because you're in the palace of the king. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do in the palace of the king, repercussions can be catastrophic. So my Rebbe's trying to get a blessing out of him. He's like, well, don't you have anything nice to say? Bon voyage, have a nice trip, something. So when he told him that, he's going to work on himself and, he's going to put all his effort being the best he can be and, etc., regardless of, the holiness of the place, meaning he's going to try and live up to the holy standards. He's going to work very hard to do that. So after that, he gave him a blessing. He gave him a blessing to go, but again, he warned him. You got to be careful. So anytime anything happens, there are repercussions. I mean, there's a lot of terrible things. A lot of, impure things that go on in this country. Right in the land of Israel. So, it's no wonder that there are so many problems. You want to mess up and play around? And do other things to uproot Torah, etc. Well, you don't think there's going to be repercussions? Of course there's going to be repercussions. Repercussions will be much more severe. Be that as it may, going into the land, if you tell me you're going to go according to nature, well, the land of Israel is a supercharged spiritual entity. So when you go in, it's not necessarily according to nature, per se. It's got different divine providence over it. So, if that's true, then, you certainly have to be careful, when there. That's one idea. Another idea, which we seem to mention, we'll flush out a little bit, is that the Meraglim, the spies, made a mistake, and that they understood God could do anything. They understood God could take these nations that were there and knock them out. All right, take care of these giants. God, they understood that wouldn't be a problem, because God can do anything. Mistake they made was maybe they're not fitting. Right, similar to what we said before. Could be that, their ancestors were on a much higher level. They could withstand it, but not them. Why would they be able to withstand it? Right? Maybe they themselves did something wrong. Maybe they had sinned. And if they transgressed, there's no divine providence. No divine providence, that's it. It's game over. You do whatever you want. You can be very brave, very strong. God's not going to let you win. Right? If He's against you, there's nothing you can do. I mean, obviously you can repent and etc., but you won't succeed. Another idea, which is an interesting idea according to the Zohar. According to Kabbalah, the heads of the tribes made a mistake in that they knew that once they go into the land of Israel, right, these important people are not going to be in charge anymore. So if so, they thought, okay, we're not going to be in charge. We have a nice cushy position, so to speak, in the desert. All right, giving orders, doing things. They have quite a bit of control, seemingly. So they thought they go into the land of Israel. Well, what's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my power, so to speak? So they said, rather let us be in the desert. Because again, why? You got two things going on. A, they may lose power. And two, that they understood that the land of Israel, you're living in the palace of the king, which we mentioned before. And therefore, why are they not going to be able to rule there? Because the rulership is going to be taken away, because you have to be on a higher level, and it's going to be totally different. So they're going to lose that. So the second reason is because they're not going to be on the level. That land of Israel is the palace of the king, and they are not holding by being leaders of the Jewish people when they go in the palace of the king. So it's going to change. So that has to be understood also. I mean, here you're talking about great people. You're not talking about, the average Israelite. You're talking about Torah giants. What, they're jealous and not going to have power? I mean, they're human. We could say that. They could say, I'm not going to lead, so I'd rather have everyone, go around in circles in the desert for 40 years. At least we won't rule, so okay, we won't see what happens in the land of Israel. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. God's told the Jewish people from time immemorial, this is the greatest place to be. Right? It's Eretz Chalav Udvash. Zayit Chalav Udvash. It's land of milk and honey. It's going to be a great place, spiritual place, where I want you to be. I mean, that's been given over, to Abraham, etc., and passed down. So for hundreds of years, this has been the idea. All of a sudden they're going to say, well, it's not for us. We're not going to lead. And if we're not going to lead, well, better us stay in the desert, for 40 years. Because we won't be able to do it. We won't have the same influence. And I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense. Talking about, you want to talk about everyday people and people that have bad character traits and certainly don't work on them, especially jealousy. What in the world are we talking about? Right? It's hard to understand. So in a sense, it may be similar to what we said before as well, that they understand that you're in the palace of the king, you're living in the land, God demands more. If he demands more, maybe we're not fitting to be a part of it. Maybe we're not fitting to lead. Because maybe we're not in the level. So therefore, maybe we've done things that, we won't be able to be on that level. But again, that's probably the answer. At least, partially here. To what's going on. But the reality is, these people were at Mount Sinai. These people, heard the Ten Commandments. At least the first two, they saw and then they died, came back to life. Some say by the first two, some say by all of them, they died, came back to life. So they're not talking about regular people here. You're talking about people of extremely high spiritual stature. So even if we say they're doing it for ulterior motives, etc., because of being in the palace of the king, so maybe they're not on the level, so they won't be able to lead, so let them lead in the desert. Again, there's a little bit something missing in that idea. Another idea is that they heard the prophecy of Eldad and Medad. Right? They were prophesizing. And they heard that Yoshua is going to bring the Jewish people to the land of Israel, not Moshe Rabbeinu. So Rabbi said, what's the nature of a person? The nature of a person says if he hears that someone else is going, that their friend is going to do something important, what happens? They become jealous. Right? They absolutely become jealous. Again, if they're as great as they are, it's hard to understand. If we say they're human, even though they're great people, they can still certainly be jealous. Which really begs the question, even if we say that that's the case, is it worthwhile to go around in circles for 40 years because you're jealous that your friend is going to rule and you're not? That they are more important and you're not? That's a hard thing to say. There are people that because bad character traits get in the way, they do stupid things that don't make any sense. They act on emotion. They don't think things through. And because of that, they say things and do things that does not help them in the long run. Just the opposite. It hurts them. But seemingly, they don't care about the repercussions. They say, well, if you can't do it, if you're going to do it, well, I'm not going to allow you to do it. I'm going to try and sabotage it. Right? If I can't do it, well, there's no way I'm going to let you do it. There are people that think that. Why is this person, for instance, getting a promotion? I deserve it. I did all this work. Why am I being looked over? Looked over. So what do? So someone who's up for a promotion and may even have gotten it, try and make them look bad. I've been working them for years. Good workers, good colleagues, whatever the case is. But there's jealousy. So because there's jealousy, you go all out to ruin this person's reputation in order that you should succeed. I've been friends for years, blah, blah, blah. But that overcomes you. Power, money, desire, honor. So you sabotage. Doesn't make any sense. Not logically. To you, it may make a whole lot of sense. Well, he's going to be up for it. No. If I can't get it, well, he's certainly not going to get it. it's kind of like, let's say someone makes an extension to their house and they don't report what they do to the municipality. Right? Because they want to save money. They don't have to get, they don't have to pay all this money to have an architect come and have them approve it, and it takes a long time. And so what do? They bypass it. They start building anyway in order to get around it. So what happens? Someone says, well, why is this person building? Doesn't really affect them. Let's say it doesn't really affect them directly. So what do? They go to the municipality themselves and say, hey, this guy's building doesn't have a permit. Now, he's not endangering you. Not causing damage. What's the problem? You have what we call Sarah Zion. You're jealous. You have literally you have a narrow eye. You look at somebody, you're jealous. Why should he be able to do it? I can't do it, or I don't have the money, I can't build, whatever. So if I can't build, why should I let him at least build for nothing? Meaning, without a permit. So, there's a major issue with this. The major issue is that a person who does such a thing, turns someone over to the authorities, right, the secular authorities. What do? They lose a portion of the world to come. Right? Talmud states explicitly, someone who's a Moser, which is a Jew who turns in another Jew to the authorities. Again, we're not talking where he's giving you problems. We're not talking about where he's a mazik, where he causes damage. Person causes damage, and is dangerous, you're allowed to turn him in, because he's a menace to society. You say you're a Moser, you turn him into the authorities, you lose your portion of the world to come, not in this case. Right? In this case, the guy's dangerous, put him away. Right? Not even a question. But somebody that's not in that case, you're jealous. Very simply, you are jealous. You don't want them to succeed because you can't do it for whatever reason. You can't build out, or you don't have money, or whatever the case is. So I ask you, what's the punishment? We just mentioned someone who turns someone in to the authorities. Again, Jews did that. That's like a person was a lowlife, an absolute lowlife. People were terrified of these people. Because any wrong move, this person turns you in the authorities, you're as good as dead. But the person who does so, and he does it against what the Torah says, punishment is you lose your portion of the world to come. That's one of the things you possibly could do to lose your portion in the next world. So then you'd have to ask, was it worth it? Alright, you stop him from building, not doing anyone any damage, but you're jealous. Because you're jealous, for whatever reason, you lose your portion of the world to come. It was worth it? People do it. Because it just eats at them, it bothers them. And because it bothers them, if you'd stop them 10 seconds before, is it worth it? You're going to lose your portion of the world to come. Is it really worth it? That's what you're willing to do? All your mitzvahs, everything wasted, so to speak, because this just knocks everything out. So if somebody's really entrenched in it, they'll say, yeah, I'm not interested. It's alright, so I'll lose my portion of the world to come. So I won't have anything, but this guy won't be able to build. And I'll make sure this guy can't build. It's stupidity. Doesn't make any logical sense. See, but a lot of times the person's entrenched in desire, entrenched in jealousy. It becomes so part of a person that they can't get out of it. And then he acts on emotion and then destroys himself in the process. So the answer is, it's never worth it. Why would you do such a thing? Because you're totally consumed. When a person's totally consumed, you don't think straight. At the end of the day, we're not doing things because of our portion of the world to come. We're doing things because we believe it's the right thing to do. And we're following God's textbook because He gave us a book, told us what to do, and this is what we do. Tell me you're going to get reward in the next world. Okay, I've never met anyone been in the next world and come back, as my Rebbe always says. But we still believe it to be true. But even if it wouldn't be true, we'd still do it. Because after all, isn't it the most important way to live your life? With meaning? Keeping Torah, doing mitzvahs, even if we don't understand things 100%? We believe it's the best thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Why? Because God said it is the right thing to do, and we believe in Him. So because of that, we'll do it. We're going to get reward also. Okay, so we'll get reward as well, but that's not the point. The point is we serve even if we're not going to get reward, because we believe it's absolute truth. So, in a lot of these parshas, you have to ask a basic question. And we'll see by next week by Parshas Korach. Korach so smart, so brilliant, also was a Mount Sinai, going to come against Aaron, going to come against Moshe. Irrelevant. Right? Why should you be jealous? So you see, jealousy can kill a person, literally. Mishnah Perkei Avos says, Kina Taiva Kavod, jealousy, desire, honor, can take a person out of this world. Some commentaries say literally, it'll kill you. Literally will take you out of this world. And you lose your portion in the next. But for some people, it's enough to get back at someone else, and they say, okay, so I'll lose it. So what? That means you didn't properly believe and take in the messages the way you should have. That means that the Torah you learned is skewed. Why? The Torah might be good, it's just my character traits are bad. Right? But that's everything. And your character traits destroyed any of your Torah learning. That's why someone who teaches Torah, Talmud tells us, in the eyes of the student has to be like an angel. Why? Because they're not like an angel. He's got bad character traits, you can't learn from them. Character traits are everything. Doesn't mean we're perfect. But if we misuse or take advantage, of Torah, etc., that's bad news. Somebody like that can be brilliant, can know Torah backwards and forwards and all the commentaries, but if he does disgusting things, or he says things that he shouldn't, or whatever, that person's supposed to be idolized? No. You can't learn Torah from such a person. The person's corrupt. The soul is corrupt. He knows a lot. Yeah, he may know a lot, but the Torah hasn't gone in. The Torah hasn't seeped in. So when it doesn't seep in, what happens? So he's just like a frummer student, as Ramosha Schneider, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may his name be blessed, always said. You can't learn Torah like you're a frummer student. Torah's not like mathematics. Torah's not like anything we know. You have to learn it, you have to think, you have to envelop the ideas, bring them out, live it. Torah's about living it. Not about mental gymnastics. There's a lot of mental gymnastics that go on. But if it doesn't affect your life, that's not Torah anymore. I'm always fond of saying, that's Torah made in my image. God said to the heavenly court, let's make man in our image. Nasem, Adam, Kitzalmenu, Kidmusenu. In our image, let's make man, the Torah says. In our image, God's talking in the spiritual heavenly court. Doesn't say, make man in my image. Make God in my image. It's about doing what God wants us to do. And obviously He knows what's best, because He wrote it Himself. Passed it down to Moshe, who passed it down to us. A lot of things we don't understand clear. We don't understand how things work, in many ways. Again, that's also irrelevant, because God has to do what He has to do. We have to do what we have to do. So the Talmud also tells us that a person can only do a transgression when enters him a ruach shtus, a spirit of stupidity. Desire is a spirit of stupidity. What, all of a sudden I go crazy? Person goes crazy. Desires overcome me. I have to go eat this pepperoni pizza. Got to run down the street. All right, that could happen. But it means that we're not spiritually in tune. That means our spiritual side is out of whack. Because at the end of the day, if we understand, God created the world, gave man a soul, takes care of everything in this world. Right, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a second basis. Controls the heavens, controls the earth, controls all of nature. He is nature. He's outside of nature. He's everywhere. Keeps everything in check, in balance. So if you understand that, and you understand how it works, again, not even on a Kabbalistic level, just a basic level. How do you speak badly against someone else? How do you do other transgressions? You say, well, we're lazy. Yeah, that's true. We're definitely lazy. But at the same time, we have free will. We have this evil inclination. We can act on it or not act on it. But if we understand how it all works, then you got to be a fool. Problem is, we don't put it into action. We make mistakes, we're lazy, we're caught off guard, we're tired, we're busy running around, chasing our tails. But at the end of the day, it's as if we don't believe in it. A little bit harsh. You say, what? I make blessings every day, I pray 3 times a day, I go to synagogue, I keep the holidays, I light a menorah, I eat all this matzah on Passover, so I whistle Dixie on 4 pounds of matzah and you're trying to blow. Right, you're trying to whistle. I do all these things. Tell me I'm not a believer. Tell me I give God lip service. So anytime we do something wrong, again, it's desire, whatever it is that causes us to do this, it takes you away from doing God's will. Not only that, person gets caught up in a moment, and he not only gives God lip service, like spits in his face, so to speak. It's called a rebellion. You do what he doesn't want you to do. Essentially, you're saying, God, go away. Don't bother me. I understand it's wrong. Don't bother me. All right, I have my little fun, whatever it is. But we don't see that in front of our eyes. We don't think every time we're about to do something wrong, we don't think of the repercussions at all. I mean, if we did, we would never get out of bed. So God gave us free will. He gave us the opportunity to make mistakes. True. And people get caught up in life and make tons of mistakes, 100%. But if we really understood, I'm not talking, Jewish mysticism over here. No Kabbalah. We understand how God runs the world. And there's reward and punishment. And there are repercussions for my actions. So one of the great Musar giants, Musar meaning Jewish ethics, once said, it's an impossibility for someone to sin. More like impossibility for a Jew to sin. He said it very simply. If we understand what God's done for us, in all aspects, nature, the world, our daily lives, how things are provided for, etc., etc., etc. He said, how could anyone not do God's will? It's like you have no free will. It's taken away. Isn't it, we're not angels, obviously. We do have free will. Even though it may be limited, we still have free will. So you can always act on it. And even do something wrong. But he was saying something extremely profound. And that is that even though the Talmud says God gave us an evil inclination, He gave us an antidote. The antidote is Torah. Right? Torah strengthens the neshama, strengthens the soul. Every time you learn, every time you do a mitzvah. When you go against what God wants, you transgress, you go further away. When you go further away, it's much harder to get to where you were before. Even so, if we understand all these things that God has done and what He's put into action, into nature, and in the heavenly spheres, and all these things. So He said, you understand that? Okay, then how could you ever sin? How is it a possibility? So the answer is, it's only a possibility when you didn't take the message to heart. When you didn't really live it. We're just sort of going through the motions. But if we live it the way we should, it's an impossibility. Okay, you may see things you shouldn't have seen. You may, there are other things that the evil inclination can try and get you to make mistakes. It's a good job. It does a good job. But even so, if we understand how everything works at a basic level, there's no possible way you could ever sin. Doesn't exist. So then if we do transgress, so then it's brought down because you let the spirit of stupidity get into you. Because it's not normal. It shouldn't be normal for that to happen. What? We're born on such a high level? Doesn't mean that. It means we have a higher awareness. And if we understand that higher awareness, you can't do anything wrong. You should never be able to do anything wrong. Well, obviously, as the prophet tells us, there's no person in this world that's ever been here that never sinned. Right? You have a few people in the world that the only reason they died is because of the sin of the snake. You have a few people like that. Everyone else, certainly has done something wrong at one time or another in their lives, however small it may be or however big it may be. But if we really knew, we really took the message to heart, it's an impossibility. So you see, we have a long way to go. We certainly have a long way to go. So, even by the greatest people, there's still something there. There's still a flaw or potential flaw. If you look at them as ordinary people, then it makes a lot of sense. Jealousy, other things. We're not talking regular people. That's why when you see by Korach, you see by Bilam, the non-Jewish prophet, he had uncanny ability to understand God's world, and he used it for bad. That's why the non-Jews, they say, we want a prophet. If we had a prophet like Moshe, we'd be different. So God gave them Bilam. You gave us this non-Jewish prophet? Guy's garbage. Look who he is. Look what he does. They could complain that he gave him a bad prophet. And that's why they're still the way they are. So we'll have to speak about Bilam when we get there. Korach took hundreds of people with him. Great people. Not just the average Joe Schmo. And they went against Aaron and Moshe. Moshe doesn't do anything on his own. Everything is God said to Moshe, saying to the people, or saying to Aaron, do this, say that, or don't do this, whatever it is. He didn't do anything on his own. He's just a scribe, that's all he is. But he's the prophet of all prophets. People understood that. They know who he was. That's why it boggles the mind about the sin of the golden calf. But with all these things, and how much clarity they saw, and how many miracles they saw done through him, All of a sudden, you're going to accuse him of stealing power. You're going to accuse him of showing favoritism to Aaron. You know, why should Aaron get the job of the priesthood? It should go to him. Well, wasn't he there at Mount Sinai? Wasn't he part of that whole experience? Didn't he see what went on not only in the desert, but in Egypt? The commentaries say he goes against Aaron, not against Moshe. If he went against Moshe, then everyone would have killed him. They absolutely would have killed him, ripped him to shreds. So he didn't go against Moshe. Moshe's the king. Can't go against the king. Especially when put in power by God himself. So he takes up with Aaron, and he's jealous. So why can't people be happy with what they have? So if God orchestrates it that way, so have you complained against God, not against Moshe, not against Aaron. But it consumed him. It absolutely consumed him. And we see, when somebody's jealous, the reality is it could kill him. And he could do things that are totally irrational. And even if it's totally irrational, he can say, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Repercussions come what may. Totally illogical. After everything that they've seen. So Korach took great people with him against Moshe and Aaron. It almost defies explanation. You know, we can try and explain it, just like we're trying to explain over here. You know, there's like something missing. Because we're not talking normal humans. We're talking about the greatest creation of a generation in the history of man. Because they're on Mount Sinai. So you can't say, oh, they're just human. They make mistakes. Yeah, the Torah portrays it that way. True. But you have to ask the question. You can't look at it at face value. Certainly why you need an oral tradition. Yeah, we could say these great people were also flawed. Yeah, we can say that. But you have to understand, if they're that great, how could they made such a mistake? It's as if to say they have little faith in God, that God can take care of, what he needs to take care of. Didn't they see all the miracles? Weren't they in the desert? And see the man and all the miracles in the desert? I mean, a normal human's going to say that? After everything they've seen, there's something wrong. Not only that, but last week's Parshas Shelach, they want to go back to Egypt. Imagine someone been saved from World War II. They've been saved, and, they're on the boat, and it's a rocky boat, and they're having all kind of, they're seasick, this, that. What do they serve them? Canned tuna fish. Boy, we missed those rations in Auschwitz. We missed, we missed the little that we got. At least, wasn't this, in Treblinka. Don't you remember what happened? Almost everybody got gassed or killed. You want to really go back to that? You're clamoring to go back? Okay, turn the ship around, go back. You'll die. It's a death trap. You put it in those terms, does that make any sense? Doesn't make any logical sense. You have to look beyond what was going on. God is trying to raise them to an incredibly high level. Working on their spirituality, working on their belief in Him, even after all the miracles, so they could go in pure into the Holy Land. But you see, that didn't happen. They had to go round in circles for 40 years. And again, there are different explanations why. I think many times, question is always better than the answer. We can try and give an answer. But if you understand in the bigger scheme of things, of what they saw, who they were, and what they went through, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense. So when we look at these people, we say, oh, well, they're human. Yeah, they are. But they're not everyday people. So you can say great people can also make mistakes. They can. 100%. But at this level, who these people were, absolutely boggles the mind. So I remind people, I have a class, Intro to Kabbalah, every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock New York time. Talk about prophecy, why God created the world, purpose of man. Talk about souls, reincarnation, angels. I also give conversion classes and Noahide classes. Take a look at my Facebook fan page, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism. My blog, orthodoxconversion.com. Anyone wants to contact me, Rabbi Chaim Coffman at gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com. Everyone have a great Shabbos.